It's not new that tech upsets everything. We went from analog to digital decades ago. We went from paper and paste up to computers. We went from computing with computers to drawing with computers. And now artificial intelligence is disrupting our way of living and our way of working. It's both an advantage, while at the same time it's a threat. As creatives, the first response that most of us had was surrounding intellectual property rights, IP rights. Bots scrape existing content on the internet. People using artificial intelligence use the content for their own purposes without paying, without crediting, without even thinking about the work belonging to somebody. Then there's the idea that creatives are going to lose their livelihood because machines, not machines necessarily at this point, but algorithms are taking over. Somewhat similar to how the common use of smartphones has removed the need for professional photography for a lot of businesses and organizations. And those businesses and organizations with AI don't need to pay someone to design a logo or to write marketing copy because the AI tools can do that for them. So we're looking at a major upheaval in technology, bigger than what happened in the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, I've heard of paste-up artist, and I know what that role was. I remember back when there was a difference between a graphic designer and a graphic artist. Those separate roles don't exist anymore because of technology, because of the tools that we use for our work. So here we are again, looking at the removal or the obliteration, if you will, of certain roles in the creative fields. People will lose clients. People will lose some of their livelihood. How do we, as freelance creatives, respond to the question, why would I pay you when I can do it myself in minutes for free with AI? It's a good question, and we need to have an answer to that. What is our value to the world as creatives? How do we as creatives respond, tweak, pivot to ensure our livelihoods, especially as independent freelance creatives? How can we use AI in our businesses and in our creative processes and also avoid becoming obsolete? Avoid being pushed out by technology that creates low-end, low-value logos and layouts? Well, I don't have all the answers. I'm still exploring what the options are, what the possibilities are. I do know that every problem, every challenge is actually opportunity to overcome, to work it through, to figure it out, and to come out on top as victors and not victims. So I don't have all the answers, and that's not my purpose in making this episode. But having lived through the paste-up to digital transition and surviving, in fact, thriving, I do have some thoughts on how we respond, embrace, and pivot. So stay with me, and I'll share those thoughts on the other side of the introduction. Welcome to the Freelance Road Trip podcast. We're located at the intersection of inspired creativity and common business sense. This is the show where designers, illustrators, and other creativepreneurs like you get answers to business questions like pricing, writing contracts, finding clients, promoting your work, managing your time, building your brand, and staying inspired, and also dealing with emerging technologies. We talk about everything you didn't learn in design school but should have if you want to build a career as an independent creative. I'm your host, Alva Lynn Lundgren. I'm an independent designer, illustrator, and educator, and I've been freelancing as a brand designer and consultant for over 3 decades. In addition to working with clients, building their brands, I teach freelancers and entrepreneurs the mindset, mechanics, mission, and marketing, the street smarts for building a thriving creative business. And my goal is to help you overcome the things you're struggling with, find permanent solutions so that you can accelerate your creative and material growth. I also want to keep you informed with accurate information and insight on the changing landscape of freelancing. Welcome to the show. You can find the show notes and links at freelanceroadtrip.com/show120, show 120. In February of 2023, which is just a few months ago at the recording of this podcast episode, I attended a virtual summit on artificial intelligence that was presented by the Copyright Alliance. The panel for this summit consisted of Matt Cunningham, Grzegorz Rutowski, Keith Cooperschmidt, John Lamb, and Carla Ortiz. And the purpose was basically to address concerns regarding AI and intellectual property rights, the ability of creators to manage and maintain rights to use their work without being infringed. And there were a variety of topics that we talked about, or at least the panelists talked about. Those who were in the audience basically got to listen. But it was quite a bit enlightening. Some of the concerns were data theft, the fact that these AI tools scrape the internet for content. There is no discretion on the part of the tools to differentiate between public domain and copyrighted work. And you know that copyright exists with the creator without the need for registration, and you know that registration is required to pursue anything legally if your work's infringed. So that's just a little side note. And I go into copyright quite a bit in the Freelance Road Trip program, which I strongly encourage you to take advantage of. Another concern was confusion, that it's easy to violate intellectual property rights laws using AI. Creative catfishing abounds, meaning lack of authenticity, lack of genuineness, lack of transparency. It makes it easier for pseudo-creatives and unskilled, untrained to scrape content, make adjustments to the content, and call it their own without doing original creative work, without going through the creative process of bringing something brand new into being, but basically stealing from someone else and saying, this is my work. And then where that can fall down, and I've heard a lot more about this type of thing lately, is that a business owner, they will contract with a freelancer based on their portfolio, but the freelancer can't deliver because it's not the freelancer's work that they're presenting, it's somebody else's work. There is a concern expressed that years of work can be demolished. The value of the work and the livelihood that comes from it can be taken away quickly because others can generate work in your style. This is especially of a concern to photographers and illustrators. So others can profit from your work without any responsibility. Alongside that, another concern that was raised, that an artist's style, an illustrator's style, and it's mainly the style of work and the skill at bringing off that style and communicating ideas and narratives through original imagery that sets one illustrator apart from another. But AI makes it easy to commandeer somebody else's illustrative style. Use of AI is not self-expression. Styles differ, and for illustrators, photographers, portrait artists, etc., style is basically born out of your soul, your mind, will, and emotions. Your style comes from who you are. So your style differentiation is part of what makes you as an illustrator or photographer very unique. AI tools are biased. They have incomplete and often erroneous information. They don't have safeguards against using existing work that is owned by somebody else. There's nothing in place at this point, and that puts the onus on the users of the tools. And very often the users of the tools are ignorant about copyright, or, well, if this is on the internet, it must be available for me to use, so I'm going to use it. Or I'm going to copy this style, or I'm going to take this particular image with this particular structure and composition and value pattern, and I'm going to use it. This is where the problem for creatives come in terms of how is AI going to affect my ability to make a living? How is it going to affect my ability to continue as a creative freelancer? How is it going to affect my ability to offer value to my clients? So there's a concern for respecting creators' rights. There's a concern about the culture of content consumption and how AI will dehumanize that. It will focus on the creation and not the creator or the creative process, the critical thinking, the problem solving. There was concern that fair use claims will increase, and fair use is supposed to be a limiting clause in the current copyright law. There's great concern about misappropriation of content, and how does that affect a designer's reputation or a photographer's reputation. There's also the idea that creators themselves need to educate and need to influence policy regarding artificial intelligence. The idea that your creative work can eventually put you out of work, put you out of business because your work is out there. It is stolen, it's misused, it's misappropriated. Everything that we as freelance creatives have invested into our businesses and to our careers can be lost. So the overriding question is, what is the ethical use of artificial intelligence? And how do we as freelance creatives embrace the technology, because it's here and it's not going away, and use it to our advantage so that we can thrive and prosper? That is the larger question that we're going to need to figure out as we go, because the answers don't exist in complete form at the moment. A discussion during this summit about ethics and artificial intelligence. Concerns raised were lack of professionalism and a low bar to entry. AI makes it easy for somebody who's not knowledgeable in design, in how human beings understand what's in their visual field and how they're going to respond. Somebody who doesn't understand the process that people go through in terms of attaching themselves to brands, embracing new ideas, making decisions to buy this and not to buy that. There's a whole process that we go through, and I do outline it in the Freelance Road Trip program and some of my other courses. It's called The Stages of Customer Loyalty. There was even the plea to stop redesigning the creatives themselves, but redesign the tools so that creativity can thrive and prosper. Copying is not creativity. Borrowing and being influenced by in a creative way and being transformative with the outcome of that is creativity. There is nothing new under the sun in terms of what we draw from. Ideas do not come out of thin air. Ideas are inspired by what already exists. Those of us who've been trained to understand this, and by going through the process of creating something, understand how to use those sources in a authentic, genuine, ethical, trustworthy, moral way. Some of the safeguards, and they're not foolproof, but some of the safeguards that creatives can put into place that you can actually implement to deter infringement include modifying your contract terms and conditions to include an AI clause. This is for your written contracts with clients. This is for your terms and conditions for your website and your privacy policy. And you should have a website if you're a freelance creative. You have a business, you should have a website, and you should have terms and conditions on your website that are clearly accessible, and they're linked on your homepage about how visitors are able to use your website, what rights they have in visiting your website, and what rights they don't have. You can license your work for AI use or not. Now, there is the difference between copyright protection and Creative Commons licensing. And I do talk about that in the Freelance Road Trip program, and the differences between copyright and Creative Commons, and when each is appropriate and what the advantages are. You can disable scraping. You can disable right-clicking on your website. Watermark. Add a watermark both digitally and the front face of every image that you put up on your website. Include a copyright notice. Make sure that you have copyright notice within your metadata for every image on your website. It could be that the copyright law is not capable of addressing AI concerns, and the law will need to be modified. We had the DMCA, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which modified the copyright law. And it very well may be that the law is going to have to be rethought because of AI tools. So those are just some of the questions, the discussion points, and not really conclusions from the summit that I participated in. And I have 4 pages of notes here that I'm looking at. But AI is going to bring up a lot of IP concerns and legal concerns regarding use of work. The whole idea of copyright is that creatives are able to profit from their creative work. The flip side of AI is how it will make doing business easier, because there's a bot for pretty much everything. There's a bot for building a website, there's a bot for marketing copy, there's a bot for business systems and contract templates. I mean, basically you name it, there is an AI tool that you can use. The AI tool landscape is being increasingly populated with choices and options. So we should look at embracing AI for business, for systems, for marketing. At the same time, I think it behooves us to be authentic in our creativity. And the reason for that is now more than ever, that authenticity, that humanness that comes through in what we do as creatives is going to be a prime asset for our clients. We need to make it so for our clients. So we cannot position as a person, as people who create commodities. Design, illustration, photography, copywriting. These are not commodities. These are valuable visual and written assets that promote businesses and promote organizations that engender ideas. So our positioning as we market and even our mindset has to change. We cannot do business the way we used to. AI tools are going to make certain aspects of doing business very easy to automate. You don't have to hire a bookkeeper, perhaps. You don't have to hire somebody to write your sales copy. You don't have to hire somebody to do your website. Now, that does remove jobs from people. It removes roles from fellow creatives even. And therefore, it becomes a threat to those fellow creatives because, hey, I can do it myself. And just as we don't want clients going on to Canva and doing stuff themselves, many freelance creatives have embraced Canva and actually design assets that are specifically for use on Canva by the client. So there's been a bit of a pivot there. One of the things that I foresee is that AI, as going from paste up to digital in the 80s and 90s, certain roles are going to go away. They're going to disappear because there's no longer a need for them, like the paste-up artist, typesetting, Rubylith, Rapidograph pens, ruling pens. Nobody uses those anymore. The technology changed. The people who did paste up went digital. The designer and the layout artist roles merged. They used to be separate. You had the graphic designer and you had the graphic artist. You had the thinking, the creative problem solving, separated from the execution. It's the way it used to be. So roles are going to change. How will you, as a freelance creative, respond? As you look at what you offer in your creative services, and you look at what AI tools are out there and available to your clients and to yourself, how are you going to adjust and pivot so that you can still provide value to an audience base? These are the creative problems that we have to solve in a creative way, and we are creatives. Technology will replace the simple and menial tasks and roles within every industry. That's always the way it's been. You automate. You don't need a person to do this. You don't need a person to do that because the machine will do it. Now, with AI tools, you don't need a person to do this. You don't need a person to do that. You don't need to pay somebody to do that because the AI tool will do it for you. Some people are very excited about AI and being able to use those tools in their creative work. And we all should be. How can we use these new tools to create new and original work that is our own intellectual property, that we can license, that we can sell, etc.? One thing I emphasize with all my students and with myself in my own business with my clients, is that our value as creatives is not in the time we spend or in the tools we use. The question came up by somebody else that if they use AI to do this certain thing for a client, should they charge the client? My response was yes, absolutely, of course, why not? Why wouldn't you? For this reason, our value is not in the time that we spend on something, nor in the tools that we use to get something done. But our value is in our critical practice, our critical thinking, our creative problem solving, our ability to create work that transforms the circumstances for our clients and our customers. That's our value. It's in the thinking, the problem solving. It's not in the tools. It's not in the hours that we spend or don't spend on something. If we can use a computer to generate brand assets that are going to cause our clients to thrive in their efforts and meet their business objectives, we can use AI tools to do the same thing. If we reduce everything to the number of hours or the specific tools we use, and that's how we position, and that's how we price our work, and that's how we see our work, we will lose. But if we adopt the mindset that, hey, I'm a creative, I'm here to help, I'm here to solve your problem, whatever it is. You need an illustration to communicate this. You need a book cover that's going to be compelling. You need a poster. You need a website that's going to function properly and look good and carry out your brand messaging. You are trying to get this message out to the world because you want to see the world as a better place. You want things running differently. How are you going to do that? Messaging, visuals, copy. We are creatives. We have the ability to take hold of the technology and to bend it to our own purposes. Instead of thinking, what will this new technology do to me? Think, what will this new technology do for me? What can I create with it? What can I systematize in my freelance business to offload certain responsibilities so that I can put more focus on my creative work? How can I increase my perceived value in the marketplace with this technology? So since we are creative problem solvers, this is a creative problem that we get to solve. We can adjust our service offerings. We can focus on strategy and not execution. We can go analog. The value of analog work is actually increasing. It always has in the face of technology, which makes things somewhat banal and low value across the spectrum. We can diversify our income streams. We can investigate, discover, and implement other ways of making a living, other ways to bring in revenue and make a profit in our businesses. We can do things like creating content, and we can sell that content. We can come up with products and sell those products. We can become affiliates and earn money through affiliate marketing. We can take what we know and turn it around into intellectual products. We are creatives. We'll figure it out. We will apply wisdom, knowledge, and skill. With wisdom, of course, being primary, because knowledge and skill are a lot easier to come by than wisdom. But wisdom is where knowledge and skill become valuable. In the book of Exodus in the Old Testament, the first people that are actually anointed with the Spirit of God are the designers and artisans. And they're anointed with wisdom, knowledge, and skill to design artistic works, all manner of artistic works. We have the ability as human beings to solve problems. Creatives do it in creative ways. So if you're fearful about what AI is going to mean for your business and your livelihood, choose to not fear, but come at it from a different direction and look at how you can embrace it and make it work for you, because it is a tool. That's all it is. And where you need to, take every precaution to protect your work and your copyright. Be sure that you have contracts in place. Be sure that you're providing value to your clients and that you are positioning and marketing yourself on that value, not on the execution of the assets, because the execution of the assets is what AI can do. But AI does not think. AI does not differentiate. AI does not have unlimited knowledge or unlimited resources. AI is not a tool that will replace your creativity, your ability to bring something into being that does not yet exist. It will not replace your imagination. What it will do is help you find inspiration and help you run your business and maintain your business so that it operates smoothly, so that you can focus on your creative work and your client relationships. Well, I hope this has been beneficial for you. The notes are found at freelanceroadtrip.com/show120. That's show 120. If there's one particular tip or insight you found especially useful in this episode, please let me know. Shoot me an email to connect@freelanceroadtrip.com. Or you can connect with me on Twitter at freelancetrip and on Instagram at freelanceroadtrip. If you are in need of some direct input and advice and counsel with your freelance business, I offer one-on-one coaching. To find out more, go to freelanceroadtrip.com/coaching. And if you want to get pro tips and industry insights parked into your inbox a couple times a month, join my newsletter list at freelanceroadtrip.com/newsletter. May you prosper in all things and be in health as your soul prospers. And I'll see you on the road.